And hello everyone, welcome back to another video. In this video we'll be continuing with actually implementing our posts we just created here. Because currently they're just dummy text and whatnot. So we want to actually implement them so we can create posts, like them, and so on. So the first thing we want to do is create a new folder in API called post, because this will contain all our posts. We'll create the usual file, so post.ts, models.ts, a folder called methods, another file called get.ts, set.ts, index.ts. And in index.ts we just import our get, our set, and then simply we just need to make sure to also go to our imports, so startup imports, and import our post. As well as here we want to import our post/post. This will auto import everything in the backend for us. Now first let's define how our posts will look. So we're going to create an interface called post model. I'm going to get this out of here since we're not going to be using it at the moment. So post model, and it will contain an underscore ID to uniquely identify it, a user ID, and this user who created this post. So we know who made this post string. You might be thinking to yourself, why not put the post ID on the user account instead? And to that I tell you, never do that. Because one user will have many posts, but a post will only have one user. Best to put it on the post instead, just to make things less confusing for yourself in the future. Whenever you have questions like this, always go, which one will have more? Is it one post, many users, or is it one user, many posts? The one that is one, you probably want to put the ID on that one. We also go text, which is a string, so this is the text that the post will contain. Created at, which is the date. Deleted at, which is also a date. And then actually deleted, which is a boolean. Note these two are optional, so we can just go one like that. You might also just exclude deleted at completely, because we already have deleted at. So if deleted at, the date is provided, then the thing will also be deleted. As simple as that. So if you only want one of the two to save on data space, that's perfectly fine. I believe in having both. And then of course just export default post model. Then instead of post, I'm actually going to go to user profile and just copy all of this code, paste it here, and then modify it. So let me actually just select all of the user profile text and go post. There we go. And in here with the collection names, we just need to go post and pass in posts. Then here we specify posts instead of that user profile. Now we have created a collection and also specified how each item in the collection should look. So now we actually want to implement creating the post we just created all this for. So to do that, we can close everything because I get overwhelmed if there's so many things up here. So just close others. Close here as well, and then we start from scratch. So we go to UI, we go to components and create post. So create post. Then in here we want a handle submit to be provided. So const handle submit post. And this will be a function that will actually submit our post to the backend. And just use the right syntax. So first we want to check if check string empty post text. So the post text is empty. Return message.error post text is required. Note, if you're unsure of when to add and not to add these brackets, you could add brackets here just to be safe. Rather be safe than sorry. I've worked long enough with JavaScript to know that this is perfectly fine to do on one line. And then afterwards, this if statement will not be used anymore. I have seen many people in the past think that these if statements go multiple lines. It's not Python where you just indent it and you can do multiple things in it. Once you've done the first line, you cannot do more. So console.log test, if I save this, You'll notice this one is below this right here. That is because it's not Python, this console log executed in this if statement. This return is not in the if statement anymore. So if you're not sure, just use brackets. Like that. Just use brackets. I am, however, sure, so I'm not going to use brackets because I like how it looks. Then you can go const cleaned text is equal to post text.trim. Doesn't matter which of these you do first because this will anyways do a post text.trim for us when checking if it's empty. Then we need to check if this post text is more than the max length that we are allowed to give. So I'm going to create a constant for it. So right here in utils constants, I'm going to create an index.ts, and this will contain a couple of constants for us. First of all, let's go export const site name, and this will be Meteor microblogging tutorial, as well as export const max post length, and we'll make that to 80 characters. However, note we are putting this in a constants file, but most of the things that go into these files, it would actually be better to store them in a database where an admin of the site can modify it. So put this into your homework books. You don't have to do it right now because it might still be a little bit complicated because we haven't implemented things like admins yet. But put in your homework book, I want you to take anything that's inside of this file at the end of this course and make it rather a page where you can update it and it's instead stored in the database. So this will be part of your homework if you choose to do it. So max post length should be in the database in its own collection, where you can then say, okay, max post length should be 30 from the admin dashboard side of this whole website. Anyhow, that's your homework. Just put this in the database and then instead retrieve it from the database and allow the user to update it. Not needed to do it right now because it might still be a little bit complicated. Then here of the clean text, we can just go if cleaned text dot length is more than the max post length, then return message.error post text is too long. Might also want to put like a minimum amount of text if you want to. I don't really care if they like just post as long as it's not an empty string. And in here we'll actually want to do the part where we post this data. So we'll need to implement that. So we go to API, to post, to methods, to set. So you can go Meteor and import that. .methods. Inside of our object, we just say set because we're creating something or we're setting something, we're changing something in a database. .post, what we are changing, and then what we're doing, create. So we're creating a post. That will be an asynchronous function. And we'll just want one thing from them. We don't need the user ID. We don't need anything else. We just need one thing from the front end. And that is the text. So I'm going to create this or copy this. Go to models. Just say get methods. Set methods. And here go export interface method. The name model. Make sure it's Pascal. And here we just want that post text and we'll say string. Then here we say text, put in our model here that we define what we want. Then first we actually check, because remember TypeScript won't check this data for us. It's just specifying to the developer what data we want. So we still need to check that text is of type string. Then we can go if, and I'm just going to go up here back to the index file. In the previous video, I was happy just typing it out, but this time I'm going to copy it, paste it here. So if the text, let's go here, is empty, then here we go client content error, and we can just say post text is required. Again, here we can check the length as well. And if it is too short, we can just say client content error. Then we need to get the currently logged in user, because we need to say who made this post. Users that are not logged in cannot create posts. So we need to check who is the currently logged in user. You could pass it in from the front end to the back end, but this is highly discouraged because, again, people can spoof the data they send like in the middle. So they send the data, but then they grab it and quickly change it, and then it gets sent to the server, which we don't want. We'd rather check who is logged in from the server itself. Now there is an easy way to get the current user. So const user is equal to await meteor.userAsync. But now if we want to specify it looks like our user model, we'll need to go wrap this and say as unknown as user model or undefined, which is okay, but we're going to do this a ton in our upcoming videos. So we don't want to type this out the whole time. It's instead better to make our lives easier and put it somewhere easy to use. So instead of server right here at the bottom, we create a new folder called utils. So this will only be available on the server. You create a file called Meteor. So this will be Meteor help utilities. And there are two things I want to add in here. The first one is, of course, our export const current user async. I'm specifying async because you also have the get user method that is not asynchronous. So here I'm specifying this function is going to be using the asynchronous one. You should await it. We go async and we just copy this right here and we return it. And of course, import Meteor. And of course, import the user model. You can, of course, also give it some documentation. So something like this, where it gets the current user using meteor.user equivalent. And then it says the Meteor is users.get.current. In this case, for our project, it would be get.users.current. So pretty much if you have a alternative for the client side, so you can call a Meteor method to get something, then you can specify it here. And if they hover over it, they'll see, oh, okay, so here's a Meteor alternative because this is server only. So if you wanted to specify something like that, you can. Currently, we don't have any option like that, so I'm going to remove it. And here I'm going to say just server only. Then another one just to make our life easier would be export const get user by ID async. This will be an asynchronous function that will get the user by their ID for us. And we just need to pass in the user ID, which is a string. And we just return await meteor.user.find1async and pass in the user ID. And again, this will be this whole as a thing here. There we go. And again, you could specify some documentation if you want. So this will find the user by their ID, equivalent to meteor.user.find1. And in here we just say, hey, it's server only. There is currently no Meteor method to simply just quickly get this for us. Okay, simple as that. Once you have done that, we can actually go back to our set right here. And instead of specifying this, we can now specify await current user async. Every time we need to get the currently logged in user, we just do this now. This is much simpler than having to write out that whole line every time. Then we just check if not user. So if the user is not logged in, return no auth error, meaning, hey, you're not authorized to do anything right now. And if they are logged in, we can just say await post collection. So we're selecting the collection we want to update or change. We say .insert. This will insert data into that collection. And we say created at, which is new date. So it's today. We have our text, which is of type cleaned text. And we have our user ID, which is of type user._ID. So this will insert all these details into the post collection for us. We do not have to specify the ID, deleted or deleted at. The ID will be generated for us, and these two are optional fields that we only really need if it's actually deleted. Now we can actually create a post. It's as simple as that. So we copy this, go to our index file here, and we just create a try catch. We then say Meteor, import that, call async, and here we can actually call that which we just created. We just go const data, and it will be of type method set post create model, and we specify our text to be cleaned text. Then here with data, just pass that in like that. Then we need to make sure to await it. And then if an error happens, we just say return error response error as meteor.error and could not create post as a backup reason. Then if it was created, we just say message.success post created. We then set the set post text to just be empty, and then we set show to false. So we hide this and we just make the post text empty. Then of course we need to actually call this when the user clicks on post. So here we go on click, and then we just pass that in. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up our MongoDB Compass, and here of local I'm going to connect Meteor, and you'll see we only have 2 collections at the moment. Now if we go here, we say create post, I try and post, it's going to tell me hey, that's not valid. And you say yabba dabba do, we post that. Internal server error, let's see what went wrong. This is a good time to show you how to fix errors like this when you get them. So let's take a look. While invoking method set post create reference error check is not defined. Okay, so pretty much this tells you where it happens. So it's happening in this method right here, and it says check, this thing right here is not defined. We just need to make sure to import check from Meteor. Save that. Now if we try and do that again, it says post created. If we take a look at our compass here and we just give it a refresh, there's now a post collection. If we click on it, there is our post. So when it has been posted, the text itself and the user who posted it. To see who posted this, we can actually take that, go to either the user profile or the users, whichever you prefer, and we can specify the underscore ID and then throw in that user ID. The user who posted it was nick@gmail.com. Ding, ding, ding. That is correct. All right. Now that we have that information, we just need to be able to take what we have done and then actually show it on the front end. And that will be the course for the next tutorial. So in this tutorial, we created the post, and the next one we'll actually try and show it. If you want a challenge, you can try and show this post yourself instead of currently just having these dummy posts here. Otherwise, you can wait for the next tutorial and we can implement it together. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all again in the next tutorial.